Hi folks, Dr. P here, and I'm going to try to briefly answer the question, what is desirable to make a game a hit? Well, I have a brief version of this and then I go into some detail. Fundamentally, publishing a hit is voodoo. It's not a meritocracy these days, if it ever was. Nobody knows a formula for how to publish a hit, or they do it all the time. Surprises abound. Of course, a game is more likely to be a hit if priced well, and especially if in the throwaway money range of $15 to $20, as with many mass market games. A game is more likely to be a hit if it's shorter rather than longer. The game is more likely to be a hit if it does not tax brains or make people feel stupid. The hobby has expanded. We've had a lot of casual players come in. This is both tabletop games and video games, and people do want to have their brains taxed by their games. Stories sell games. And that's true even if there's no connection between the story and the actual game. People don't seem to mind that. But perhaps most important today is good looks. A game that looks good has a leg up on a game that doesn't look quite as good. Advertising helps a lot too, especially for video games. It's a brief market, and of course it helps to be a good game, but games are sold on hype, much of it before the game is released. Look at Kickstarter. A game is active in the market for 90 days or less, and that probably is getting shorter and shorter as time goes on. And then it's forgotten in most cases. Game shops don't reorder many games. There are so many new ones coming down the hype train line that they just order the next new hyped up game. So a game must be outstanding in many ways to overcome this cult of the new. Now, one way to design a really good game in the past was to have gameplay depth. Of course, that's more difficult to do in a shorter game. And of course, games with gameplay depth can tax brains or make people feel stupid. Games with gameplay depth appear to be obscure compared to the typical shallow stuff produced today. And since your typical game player only wants to play a game 1 to 3 times to figure out how it works and then move on to the next thing, being obscure is, at least initially, a mark against the game. So games with gameplay depth lose out. Now, variety is seen as a virtue these days. Variety is not depth, but variety can sell. This is a little odd because few people play the game enough to really experience a variety. Still, many games tend to be the same thing over and over, and it's good if a game can change. Yet today in tabletop and even video, variety is provided not with the game itself, but with expansions and downloadable content that usually cost additional money, but can help make a game popular. Looks appearance is very important, and I really like this quote originated by Will, also known as the Class Guy on Twitter. Quote, "Those who have too little value quantity. Those who have enough value quality. And those who have too much value presentation." Unquote. In gaming, we're at the have too much stage. Buyers value looks of the game far more than in the past. Miniatures and tabletop games especially attract the oh shiny Kickstarter generation. Games with only cards must rely on really good artwork. Pricing is another thing, and we could ask what kinds are being published. The inexpensive ones? Well, yes, somewhat, but over time we seem to be moving more and more expensive to the point some people worry that we're pricing some people out of the market. More often, games are published with lots of components. Again, I'm referring to tabletop games, and they cost a lot as well. You see games that cost over $100. Well, even today, $100 is a lot of money, and not everybody can spend $100 on a game. And the video games are what, $60, $70? And all you get then is electronic bits. Now, if your game is not reasonably priced for what it is, it'll never get the start needed to become a hit. For example, my game Sea Kings, published in 2015, I think. The company, Worthington Publishing, was trying at that time to get into a broader market. And so they picked one of my games that was quite simple. And it didn't sell terrifically well because they weren't willing to go all the way and print enough that the cost per unit was lowered. So they priced the game at $60. And it was, as some people observed, really a $40 game. Well, at $60, that made it hard to get going. And it didn't, of course. Expectations of reasonably priced are based on costs of larger print runs that provide big economies of scale. 5,000 might be regarded as a large print run now, used to be 10,000 and up. Expectations are also based on the weight of the box. Now, I think this is foolish, as this is no indication of the value of how the game plays, but so many now tend to ignore the quality of the actual play in favor of the looks of the game, because they know that ordinarily they're not going to play it very many times. Of course, the best path to really good sales is to already be a hit. That is, a reissue of something, or something that's an evergreen game like Magic the Gathering. Magic the Gathering succeeds even though the market rejects similar hand-in-your-pocket collectible games. But Magic was there first, and Magic's the biggest by far, and it continues to succeed. Monopoly is a pretty poor or even bad game, but it's the best seller worldwide because of habit and simplicity, and also it's quite cheap nowadays. We now see manufacturers using the names of well-known games in other games, even if there's no connection, such as Battleship Galaxies and Sorry Sliders. Those are both Hasbro. Is much of this cynical? I don't think so. It's just a recognition of reality. Life is about what's real, not about what you wish or want to believe it is. Thanks for listening.